he's fully briefed, etc. This is not happening in a vacuum. Obviously, he had a very controversial call this week with the president of Pakistan. A U.S. president has not gone to Pakistan, met with a Pakistani leader in, a decade. And then on top of that, Trump this week had a phone call with the president of the Philippines, Duterte, who, by the way, threatened famously not long ago to break off, relations with the United States militarily, sort of the allied relationship, and also at the same time, it was just a few months ago that he said that President Obama could go to hell, his words. So here's what the Philippines president said on that call. I think we have it.
He was quite sensitive also to our worry about drugs, and he wishes me well in my campaign, and he said that well, we are doing it, as he saw in the right way.
It's significant that he says that Donald Trump said he's doing the war on drugs the right way, because that's a very aggressive war on drugs in his country that has led to thousands of people being killed. What's the significance there?
Well, I mean, I've covered some of this. There have been, by police figures, more than 2,000 people killed by Philippines cops in 5 months since Duterte took office as part of this war on drugs. So you've got like a dozen or more bodies showing up a night in the capital, Manila, suspiciously with handguns next to the corpses, and all seemingly killed by police in self-defense after they pull their guns. So this is really bloody what's going on there. And the Obama administration has been criticizing, as of a number of human rights organizations in Western countries. Duterte hates that. He curses the European Union. He curses the U.S. He seems to have a visceral anti-American feeling, even though the Philippines is probably one of the most pro-American countries I've ever been to. And what's remarkable is while he doesn't get along with President Obama, soon after President-elect Trump was elected, he said, hey, we both like to swear, we're the same guy. So he seems to recognize a similar sentiment or temperament in President-elect Trump, and he even appointed before the election Trump's business partner to be the Philippines' special economic envoy to the U.S.
Ivan Watson, a lot to digest there. Thank you very much for the reporting. We appreciate it. Lucky to have you in New York with that perspective. Thanks. Thank you very much. Let's bring in my panel. Ben Ferguson is here, a CNN political commentator, host of The Ben Ferguson Show. Mark Lamont Hill is with us, CNN political commentator, also host of BET News and a professor at Morehouse College. Just digesting what Ivan just said. Mark, this isn't being done in a vacuum. This is within the span of a week, the president-elect having very controversial phone conversations with the leaders from Pakistan, from the Philippines, from Taiwan, something that hasn't happened in 40 years. We knew that he wasn't going to be the same leader as past presidents. He is proving that to us. Should this be such a surprise to people?
No, it shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, throughout the campaign, President-elect Trump did not demonstrate any sophisticated understanding of foreign policy or the delicate balances that exist in the geopolitical landscape. That doesn't mean that everything he does is necessarily wrong. When President Obama entered office, people said, hey, he's going to engage North Korea. Hey, he's talking about engaging Cuba differently. And although it hadn't been done, that wasn't a sufficient reason not to do it. Sometimes you have to do things that haven't been done before. The difference is with Donald Trump, it doesn't seem as if he had some sophisticated, nuanced plan to engage Taiwan. It seemed as if he didn't even understand the relationship between China and Taiwan. He didn't understand that we didn't have direct relations with Taiwan for any particular reason. And so that lack of knowledge is what concerns me.
So his team, Kellyanne Conway, said to Anderson Cooper last night that is absolutely not the case. She said he's well aware of what U.S. policy has been. He is fully engaged, fully briefed. But, Ben, I want you to listen to what Trump said at a rally in August about, here's an example, why he wouldn't disavow his, what some see as an embrace of Russian President Vladimir Putin.
But they say Putin likes Trump, and he said nice things about me. He called me a genius. He said we're going to win. That's good. That's not bad. That's good. You know, some of my opponents said, we want you to disavow that statement. Why would I disavow? Okay? Why? But if we could get along with Russia, wouldn't that be a good thing instead of a bad thing?
So that was on the campaign trail, Ben, in August. And these calls that Ivan was just speaking with us about seem to be a continuation of that. Wouldn't it be better, he says, if we had a warm relationship with Russia, with the Philippines, with Taiwan. However, there are major issues in some of these countries that do not align with U.S. policy, belief, or standing, just like Ivan described in terms of the very controversial war on drugs in the Philippines. So where's that, as a Trump supporter, where do you want that line drawn?
I think it's very clear that he says, I would rather open up a dialogue early on and see if maybe we can have better relations and maybe have better deals are made and have better conversations. It's been since 1978 since the last president spoke with the president of Taiwan. He's saying maybe that's long enough. It's the same logic that Barack Obama used when he was talking with the Castro regime down in Cuba.
So you don't worry about it. The difference is China. Well, you don't worry about it infuriating China, a country, you know, the United States needs on the UN Security Council and needs when it comes to North Korea?
Poppy, China always acts like they're infuriated anytime they don't get their way. They always, through their state media, overreact to statements. And this is not as big of a deal as many are making it out to be. And my point is, we've been selling billions of dollars of weapons to Taiwan to directly use to defend themselves against an aggression if China ever decided to do that. So the idea that Taiwan's going to be more outraged over accepting a phone call from Taiwan than Barack Obama sending billions of dollars in sales of weapons to that country is a little bit overreaction from everyone that wants to attack Donald Trump here. Donald Trump took a phone call. That is what he did. He didn't sell any weapons to Taiwan. Obama did that, and no one freaked out over it. Just
to be clear, from the readout from Taiwan on this call, they did talk about things such as national defense. So it wasn't just a congratulations, Mr. President-elect. Mark, let me get your take on this, because this week, as Ivan and I just discussed, Donald Trump, spoke with the president of Pakistan, and according to a readout provided, from Pakistan, he told the prime minister, quote, "You're a terrific guy. You're doing amazing work, which is visible in every way." Obviously, the relationship with Pakistan is complicated. There's a reason no U.S. president has been there in a decade when it comes to nuclear proliferation, when it comes to, the questions over harboring terrorism. What's your reaction to this series of phone calls and Pakistan specifically?
I don't have a problem with phone calls per se. And again, I wish Ben were this open to engaging untapped territories 8 years ago when Barack Obama was doing it. But I do think, again, it's not a question of just engaging these countries. It's a question of asking, what does getting along mean? Getting along at what cost? So if we're going to engage Pakistan, what does that mean? How do we think about human rights? How do we think about the geographic positionality of Pakistan? How do we think about the harboring of terrorism? How do we think about these things? Are we simply going to talk to everybody and let them tell Donald Trump how great he is? Or are we going to make a hard line? Are we going to have a strategic purpose in each place? I'd love to talk to Putin. But if we're not going to stop fighting proxy wars in Syria, if we're not going to talk about the annexation of Crimea, if we're not going to talk about the fundamental issues, then there's no point in talking to these nations. We have to have a plan and we have to have a strategy.
Ben, I want to get this. Ben, I want to get this into you. I want your take on this because he will name a Secretary of State soon, and if it is a Mitt Romney or someone like that he's had very different views with when it comes to some of these major U.S. relationships and some of the foreign policy with Russia, etc. Does this complicate things for Mitt Romney? Can he stomach phone calls like this?
Not if you know going in what you're going to be dealing with here. And I think what Donald Trump has made very clear is diplomats have not done a great job for America recently. We've been winning, or I should say we've been losing more than we've been winning on the international stage with many countries, including Russia. And so he's going to go direct. He is a negotiator. And I also think he understands one other thing. It's a lot easier to have a really rough and tough and blunt conversation with a foreign leader if you have a rapport with them before those conversations start. It's the same thing that Ronald Reagan did with Gorbachev. He talked to him, he met with him, but he was also incredibly tough with him and told him to tear down that wall, and it worked. And I think Donald Trump might be looking at that and saying, okay, if I want to be really blunt with China, I don't want to do it necessarily through the media or through diplomats. I want to know who I'm talking to and negotiating with on the front lines, and that includes Taiwan or Pakistan for that matter, because when you have a rapport, you usually get more done.
Ben, I have to leave it there. Mark, Ben, thank you guys very much. A lot coming up. Moscow meddling, new details about Russia's reported attempts to interfere with the U.S. election as Democrats push to make secret reports public. We'll explain live in the CNN Newsroom next.
Choose to go, to indulge your curiosity. Explore a new road to see where it takes you. Meet the leaders who changed the game. No matter where you are, no matter what the currency, when you run the numbers, they may surprise you. But stay your course. You're on the path to success. CNN Money.